Hello friends, welcome back to my kitchen. Welcome back to Locally Raised. I've harvested a few things that I need to process today, so let me show you our lineup on my table. Here's what we're gonna do today. So I've got this basket of apples that I need to turn into apple rings, and I know that there's too many apples to process in the oven as dried apple rings, but I don't want to turn them into applesauce because I'm going to have an applesauce day with my mom in a couple weeks, and we're going to make a lot of applesauce. So I'm not sure how many of these will turn into apple rings, but some of them are going to become dried apple rings, and I'll figure out what I'm going to do with the rest. Then we're going to make some pickled jalapenos with the latest little harvest from the jalapeno plant, and freeze the last of my green beans. These are the dragon tongue green beans. So let's get started. I'm gonna start off filling up my sink with water and washing these apples because they are still dirty. You can see the apples aren't perfect. They have some spots on them, but the flavor is really good. I'm using an apple core that I just purchased from Amazon. I can link it down below if you're interested in trying these apple rings at home. I have access to an apple peeler core slicer, which we've used in the past to make applesauce, but for rings, the only thing you want to remove is the core. So this is a new process for me, punching the core out of the middle. It's a little bit time consuming, but it's ultimately effective. One of my favorite places to find local produce is the Facebook Marketplace. I often find local gardeners on there who have just grown a little bit more than they want, and they're looking to offload some of it. And that was the case with these apples. I saw a posting on the marketplace from somebody who had an apple tree in their yard that they just didn't want, or they didn't care about the apples from them. I'm guessing they bought the house and it happened to come with this old apple tree. So they posted free apples, come pick your own. And I stopped by, and there were a couple other people there picking apples at the same time. And it was just a really lovely afternoon. The other people who were there picking had some kids who saw that I was pregnant and wanted to help me pick, to help me out, which was really sweet. And so I just got to meet some people and pick apples together and got a free basket full of apples. And I think they're probably organic, because there are some spots on them, and there were definitely some with worms that I passed over. So I don't think anybody's treating these apples. It's a nice little gift for my family to happen to get these free apples. They're also chemical free. I'll give you a close-up here of what I'm doing. The apples are sometimes irregular in shape, so the core doesn't always get the entire core in one shot, but I'm finding the best way is to start from the bottom and try to really line things up. And then I'll check the top, and look, sure enough, it seems straight from the bottom, but didn't get part of the top. So I'm gonna have to do a second pass, which is fine. And sometimes a third pass, because these are just not perfectly cylindrical. And now I've gotten it all. The apples are cored, and now it's time for slicing. The aim is to slice the rings as thinly as possible, even less than 1/4 inch. I'm aiming for about 1/5 of an inch. They're good. Set aside the rings that were the very top and bottom of each apple because they're mostly skin and they're just not going to be as nice for drying. But these will not go to waste. We will eat them fresh. I'll probably sprinkle a little lemon juice on them and put them in the fridge, and we'll eat them for the next few days. I think I've definitely got enough for my first round in the oven. Unfortunately, you just can't fit a lot of these in the oven at a time, so I'm going to have to do several batches throughout the day because this does take some time. Putting down parchment paper and then spreading out the rings. There they are. Aren't they pretty? The shapes are irregular, but that's just the look of homegrown organic. I love it. Now they're going to get sprinkled with a bit of cinnamon. These will go into the oven at 275 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'll cook for about 45 minutes on the first side, and then flip them and do about 45 minutes on the second side. At that point, I should have a chewy apple ring, and I can leave them in for an extra hour if I want a crispy apple ring. I haven't decided yet which one I want. Apples are in the oven, so I'm moving on to the pickled jalapenos. I'm going to start off mincing a few cloves of garlic. This is mine from the garden. While that brine cooks, I'm gonna start cutting my jalapenos. I can smell the heat. I planted only one jalapeno plant this year, and I'm trying to make notes about this summer's garden so that I know exactly what I want and what my family needs from next year's garden. I think we definitely need 2 jalapeno plants. We really like having them on hand for taco nights. Spoiler alert, we had some of these with dinner and they were unbelievably hot. They really surprised me for a jalapeno. I would say I have a moderate heat tolerance. If I go to an Indian or a Thai restaurant, I'll sometimes order mild, sometimes order medium. John will order medium, sometimes hot, and these were too hot for both of us. Now that I think about it, I did leave these on the plant a long time to ripen. The plant wasn't sitting in quite enough sunlight, so they were on the vine or on the plant for a couple weeks. I'm sure that contributed to the heat. I ended up spooning a bunch of yogurt after trying a few of them. So I'm going to have to do something to modify these and make them more edible for us. I might drain the brine and get the seeds out, and then make another brine and put the jalapenos in that. And I might sweeten the brine a bit more to see if that can soften some of the heat. I'm gonna pour the brine over my jalapenos. I'll cover them and these will go into the fridge. That really was an easy recipe. That took just a few minutes. We're gonna have a taco night tonight, so we will eat some of these tonight. And the recipe can be easily adjusted for your heat preference. So the more sweetener that you add, the more that that sweetener draws the heat out of the jalapenos, and you'll get a milder jalapeno. And then if you really like the spice, you can add barely any sweetener and you'll get all the heat. Moving on to green beans. The last thing I need to accomplish today is freezing those green beans. So I'm going to blanch them and then put them in quart-size freezer bags. I'm gonna start off with boiling some water. This is definitely a bigger pot than I need, but it's just what I have free right now. I'm gonna bring that water to a boil. My oven timer just went off, which means it's time to flip the apple rings. It smells so good in here. It smells like cinnamon and apples. Kind of a fall Thanksgiving type smell. Let's see how they look. I'm gonna cut these beans into bite-sized pieces while my water is coming to a boil for blanching. These are dragon tongue beans. They are so pretty. And they're really tender and sweet. My kids have really liked them and I like them too. So that's kind of a win if the kids will eat them also. So I'm gonna get these chopped up. I grew green beans, classic green beans in this spot before I planted a round of dragon tongue, and a few came up as a combination. I got a little hybrid. So I've got that dragon tongue pattern on a classic green bean. It's funny how plants do that. My water has reached a rolling boil, so I'm gonna put the beans in, and as soon as it returns to a rolling boil, I'll set a timer for 3 minutes. Meanwhile, I'm gonna fill this with ice so that I can put it into an ice water bath as soon as its 3-minute blanch is complete. Beans have boiled for 3 minutes. Now I'm gonna drain and plunge them into this ice bath. I'm always surprised at how little my beans amount to when I bag them for freezing. But I have to remind myself that when I add these few bags to the nearly 20 that are in my freezer right now, that's a weekly serving of beans for my family for nearly half a year. So that's a win. After 45 minutes on each side, the apple rings were still a bit softer than I liked, so I decided to try giving them an extra hour in the oven. Some of them are crispy at the end and some are still a bit soft, so I probably need to slice them thinner if I want the guarantee of crispy ones. At this point, my daughter decided to join me, half helping, half eating. It was a good little project for the two of us. 3 more trays went into the oven after we packed up these 3. think that's it for now. Oh.
I knew you would count on me.
Here's the final result. There would have been about 4 jars, except we ate a lot while packing them in. It's very satisfying. Thanks for joining me for another day in the kitchen. I think I'm just about at the end of my food preservation projects when it comes to preserving things from the garden. So now I'm coming into that season where I switch into cooking with the things that I've preserved. I'm looking forward to that. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and you can join me for more time of growing food in my backyard, sourcing food locally, and cooking with those good local ingredients. I'll see you next week.